The ruined city was silent at night. Broken towers leaned against the dark sky, and dust hung like a blanket over every street. In the middle of this silence lived a girl, small, thin, and with alien eyes that glowed faintly whenever the moonlight touched them. She had no family, no friends, and no one who dared come close. People whispered about her. Some called her cursed, some called her dangerous, but none of them had ever spoken to her. The girl moved like a shadow, slipping between broken walls, hiding behind rubble. She carried nothing but an old blanket that she wrapped around herself. It was her shield against the cold and against the world. Every sound made her heart beat faster. Every laugh or shout from far away made her press her hands against her ears. She feared everyone, and for her, fear was safer than hope. When she was younger, she had tried to ask for help, but the market people had thrown stones. They shouted that she was strange, that she was not welcome. After that day, she promised never to speak to anyone again. She promised never to trust. So she lived alone, drinking water from cracked pipes, finding scraps of food in the dirt. Her life was survival, nothing more. Every night, she watched others from the shadows. She saw humans laugh together, families eat together, children chase each other through the streets. Her heart twisted when she saw them, not from anger but from longing. Still, she told herself she did not need anyone. Family only left you, friends only hurt you. If she stayed alone, no one could break her again. The air grew colder that evening. The sky carried clouds heavy with rain. She curled up in her blanket inside the ruins of a fallen house. Broken glass crunched under her feet. She shivered and held her knees tight to her chest. She closed her glowing eyes and tried to sleep. But the silence was broken by something strange, a sound, soft at first, then sharper. It echoed through the empty street. It was not the shout of a drunk man or the rattle of a cart, it was a bark. The girl froze. Her body stiffened as the sound repeated, a small, sharp bark that carried warmth instead of danger. She had never heard the sound before. Her mind told her to stay hidden, to ignore it, but her heart whispered curiosity. Slowly, she crept from her corner. She moved like a ghost, barefoot and silent. Her glowing eyes scanned the broken road. The sound came again, closer now. She pressed herself against a cracked wall and peeked out. At first she saw nothing, only the dark street and the falling rain. Then, from behind a pile of bricks, a small creature ran out. It was tiny, with fur the color of sand and eyes full of light. Its tail wagged back and forth, its little legs splashed in puddles. The creature barked again and the sound echoed against the ruins. The girl's breath caught in her throat. She had never seen such a thing. She knew of the great beasts used in war, she knew of the dangerous animals that roamed the wild hills, but this creature was different. It looked weak, harmless, and yet it ran with joy. The girl stepped back quickly. Her heart screamed danger. If something so strange came close, what if it bit her? What if it carried poison? She pressed herself harder against the wall, pulling her blanket tighter, but the little creature had already seen her. It barked once more and ran toward her feet. Her hands shook. She wanted to run. Every part of her body told her to escape, but her legs would not move. She stared down at the creature, at its wagging tail and its eyes that held no fear of her glowing face. The creature jumped happily in front of her, splashing water on her legs. The girl gasped, but still did not move. For the first time in years, something, had come close to her without anger, without hate. The sound of the bark cut through the silence of her lonely world. Her chest rose and fell quickly. She felt a heat on her cheeks, not from fire, but from something she had almost forgotten existed. Hope. Before she could understand what she was feeling, a voice called out from the distance. It was a human voice, strong but worried. "Penny, where are you, girl?" The little creature barked again as if answering. The girl's eyes widened. Fear returned, sharp and heavy. If the creature belonged to a human, then danger was near. She stepped back into the shadows, her glowing eyes fixed on the road. The sound of footsteps approached, steady and close. The girl's heart pounded. Should she run? Should she stay? The shadows wrapped around her. The ruined city held its breath. And the small creature stayed, by her feet, wagging its tail as if it had found something more important than the call of its master. The girl's world, once silent and cold, had just changed. She did not yet know it. But the sound of that bark would be the key to breaking the walls she had built for so long. The rain dripped from broken roofs, filling the ruined city with the smell of wet stone and dust. The girl stayed in the shadows, her thin body pressed against the cracked wall. Her glowing eyes followed the little creature that stood wagging its tail near her feet. She had never seen such a thing before, and yet it acted like it had always known her. The bark echoed again, sharp but playful. It was so different from the shout she feared, so different from the cruel voices of the market people. This sound carried no threat, only warmth. The girl's lips trembled as she whispered to herself, "What are you?" But of course, the creature gave no answer. It only barked again, louder this time, as if calling for something. The human voice answered from the street. "Penny, come here, girl, where are you?" The footsteps grew nearer, splashing in the puddles. The girl's chest tightened, fear burned inside her. The creature belonged to a human, and humans meant danger. She looked at the small thing at her feet, then back toward the approaching sound. Her instinct told her to run before it was too late, but the little creature pressed closer. Its wet fur brushed against her bare ankle. She flinched, ready to kick it away, yet her leg froze. The warmth of the touch was so soft, so gentle, her whole body shook with confusion. Why was she not running? Why was she letting this strange beast stay near? The footsteps grew louder, and soon the shadow of a figure appeared at the end of the ruined street. A tall human boy, his clothes wet from the rain. He held a small lantern that glowed faintly in the dark. His eyes searched the broken stones, worry clear on his face. "Penny," he called again, softer this time, as if afraid to scare her. The girl's heart thundered. She pressed her back against the wall, her fingers digging into the old blanket. The little creature barked happily and jumped in front of her. The sound betrayed her hiding place. The lantern light flickered, and the boy's head turned toward the ruins. His eyes locked on the shadows where she stood. For a moment the girl could not breathe. She felt naked under his gaze. Every cruel memory returned, stones thrown at her, mocking laughter, harsh words. She waited for him to shout, to curse, to drive her away. But he did not. The boy froze. Where he stood, his eyes widened, not in anger but in surprise. His voice came low, careful, almost gentle. You're not a ghost." The girl blinked, confused. She did not understand his words. Was he mocking her? The boy lowered the lantern, letting the light soften. He did not come closer. He only stood there, as if afraid to scare her away. His girl's legs trembled. She wanted to flee into the deeper shadows, but the little creature barked again and ran in circles, happy between the two of them. It wagged its tail as if it had found treasure. The boy's lips curved into a small smile. So, Penny found a friend. A friend. The word stabbed into her chest. She had not heard that word in years, not since her parents, not since before the cruelty of the markets. She shook her head, pulling the blanket tighter. She could not be his friend. She was not allowed to have anyone. The boy did something she did not expect. He bent down on one knee, lowering himself to the ground. He placed the lantern carefully beside him and raised both hands to show they were empty. "It's okay," he said softly. "I won't hurt you." The girl's glowing eyes narrowed. No one had ever spoken like that to her before. Every word sounded too soft, too strange. She stepped back, her bare feet pressing into the cold mud. The boy did not move. His gaze was calm, his breathing steady. He looked more worried for her than for himself. The rain fell heavier, drops sliding from the broken stones above. The girl shivered, her blanket soaked. Still she could not run. Something in the boy's voice kept her frozen. He did not sound like the others, not cruel, not hateful. The little creature, Penny, she realized, barked one last time and then sat between them. its fur wet, its body trembling. Yet even in the cold it wagged its tail, happy as if it had brought two broken pieces together. The boy waited. His eyes never left her. The girl's throat ached. She wanted to speak, to ask why he was not shouting, why he was not driving her away. But fear chained her tongue in the end. She did the only thing she knew how to do. She turned and fled back into the ruins. The boy did not chase her. His voice followed her instead, soft in the rain. "It's okay. I'll see you again." The girl's heart raced as she vanished, into the shadows. Her mind screamed she had been foolish, that she had let herself be seen, but deep inside a small spark of something else burned, a question she had not asked in years. What if not all humans were the same? The girl did not sleep that night. The rain drummed on the broken roof, but her mind was louder. Every time she closed her glowing eyes, she saw the boy's face, his calm eyes, his steady hands. He had not shouted. He had not thrown stones. He had spoken softly, and that softness scared her more than cruelty. Kindness was dangerous. Kindness was a trick. She told herself this again and again. If she trusted it, she would be hurt. Yet her heart kept whispering about the boy and his strange creature, Penny. At dawn, she crept out to the empty street, her blanket still damp, her stomach growled, hunger twisting inside her. She searched the ruins for scraps of food, rotten fruit or half-burnt bread. She moved silently as always, but her ears listened for a bark, a sound she had never known before yesterday. Hours passed, and she returned to her corner with nothing. She curled up in the shadows, weaker, colder, her thin fingers pressed against her stomach. A sound reached her again, not a bark this time, but footsteps. Her heart jumped. She pressed deeper into the wall, holding her breath. The footsteps were careful, not loud, not rushed. Slowly, the boy appeared, lantern gone now, carrying only a small bundle in his arms. Penny ran beside him, splashing happily in puddles. The girl's glowing eyes narrowed. She waited for him to throw something cruel, but instead the boy stopped in the middle of the broken street. He crouched down, unwrapped the bundle, and placed something on the wet stones. A piece of bread and a small flask of water. Her stomach twisted harder. The smell of food reached her nose, her throat burned. She wanted to run forward, grab it, and vanish. But the boy did not move closer. He sat on the ground, his hands resting on his knees. He let Penny bark once and then quiet. "It's for you," he said softly. His voice carried no anger, only patience. "If you're hungry, take it." The girl pressed her teeth together. Fear battled hunger. She whispered to herself, "It's a trick. It must be a trick." Her legs shook, but her hunger was stronger than her fear. Slowly, step by step, she crept from the shadows, her blanket dragging in the mud. The boy stayed still, his eyes lowered so they would not burn into her. Penny wagged its tail. The girl reached the bread, grabbed it with trembling hands, and stepped back fast. Her glowing eyes stayed on him, waiting for the attack, but none came. The boy simply watched her eat, his lips curved into the faintest smile. Not mocking, but relieved, she tore the bread with her sharp teeth, swallowing too quickly. Her chest rose and fell. She hated that he saw her like this, weak, desperate. Yet she could not stop. When the bread was gone, she drank from the flask, cool water washing away days of dryness. She gasped, pressing the flask close. Then she looked back at him, still, waiting, still calm. Why? Her voice was barely a whisper, rough from silence. Her own ears barely believed she had spoken. The boy raised his eyes, surprised but gentle. "Because you look like you need it." Her glowing eyes widened. Confusion burned through her chest. People had always told her she was cursed, dangerous, worthless. No one had ever said she looked like she needed help. Her fingers tightened on the flask. She wanted to throw it away, to prove she didn't need him, but her hands would not let go. He leaned back, giving her more space. "I'm Noah," he said, "and this is Penny." He pointed to the small creature who barked happily at the sound of its name. "She likes you." The girl shook her head hard, her voice cracked. "No, no one likes me. Noah's expression softened. She does, he said simply, and I don't think she's wrong. Her chest ached, her throat burned. She wanted to scream, to tell him to leave her alone. But the words would not come. Instead, she clutched the flask and turned away, running back into the shadows of the ruins. Noah did not follow. He only called after her. I'll leave food here again, you don't have to be afraid. The girl stumbled into her corner, shaking. Her heart pounded, her stomach was full, yet she felt empty in a new way. His words echoed in her ears. His kindness wrapped around her like the blanket she carried, only warmer. She pressed her glowing eyes shut. She told herself it was only food, only survival. It meant nothing. But in the quiet of her mind, she heard the bark again, soft and bright, breaking through the silence she had built around herself for so many years. The night after. Noah left the food. The ruins felt different. The girl sat in her corner, her blanket pulled tight. Her stomach was no longer empty, but her heart was restless. She told herself it had only been hunger. She told herself she would never see him again. And that was good. Safer. But the silence did not last. A faint bark echoed again through the cracked streets. The girl's head snapped up, her glowing eyes widened. That sound had become strange comfort, even though it scared her. She crept from her hiding place, and there, through the mist, came the little creature. Penny this time. Penny was alone. Her tiny paws splashed through puddles, her tail wagging as if the ruins were her playground. In her mouth she carried something wrapped in cloth. She trotted straight to the girl's corner, tail swinging wildly. The girl froze, her hands clutching her blanket. She wanted to run, but her eyes were locked on the small bundle dangling from the pup's mouth. Penny dropped it at her feet and barked proudly. The smell hit her nose first. Bread, still soft, not yet spoiled. Her throat tightened. She looked around quickly, half expecting Noah to appear from the shadows. But the boy was nowhere to be. Seen, it was only the puppy, staring at her with bright, trusting eyes. Her hands shook as she bent down. She picked up the bundle slowly. Her chest rose and fell quickly. Why? She whispered. Her voice cracked. She looked into Penny's eyes, but the creature only wagged its tail, licking the rain from its fur. The girl sat back against the wall, holding the bread close. She ate it in small bites, slower than before. Her glowing eyes never left Penny. The pup curled beside her bare feet, letting out a tired sigh. The warmth of its body reached her skin. She flinched at first, but she did not move away. The ruins had always been cold. The nights had always been silent. But now, a small warmth sat beside her. She pressed the last crumbs of bread to her lips and whispered again, "Why?" This time she was not asking Penny, she was asking herself. When the morning came, the puppy was still there. Her little body curled like a ball of fur. The girl had not slept. She had watched the creature all night, expecting it to leave, expecting it to vanish like everything else she had ever loved. But Penny stayed. Her steady breathing filled the silence. At sunrise, footsteps echoed faintly down the road. The girl tensed. Noah's voice called out, softer than before. "Penny, where did you go this time?" The puppy barked and jumped up, tail wagging. She ran into the street, splashing water everywhere. The girl's breath caught. She could run back into the shadows. She could hide. But instead, she stayed, clutching her blanket. Noah appeared with the light of dawn at his back. His eyes fell on Penny first, then slowly lifted to the girl. She did not run. Not this time. Noah froze, surprised that she was still there. His lips curved into a faint smile. "She likes visiting you," he said quietly. He crouched down again, just as he had before. He made no move to come closer. His hands rested open on his knees. The girl's glowing eyes narrowed. Suspicion battled with something else, something soft. "Why?" she asked again. Her voice was little more than air. "Because you need someone," Noah answered. His tone was simple, certain, and so does she. He nodded toward the puppy. Penny barked in agreement, bouncing happily between them. The girl's throat burned. She wanted to argue, to say she needed no one, but the warmth at her feet told her otherwise. She lowered her eyes, unable to look at him any longer. Her hands tightened around her blanket. Noah stayed quiet. He did not press her. He simply said, "I'll bring more food. You don't have to talk, you don't have to trust me, but I'll come back." The girl trembled. His words sank into her heart like stones thrown into water. Each one rippled through her walls. She wanted to scream at him to stop, to leave her alone, but deep down a small part of her begged him not to. When he left, Penny stayed behind for a moment. Running back to nuzzle against her legs, the girl's hand twitched. For a heartbeat she thought of reaching out, of touching the soft fur, but fear locked her fingers. She pulled her hand back, hiding it in her blanket, as the puppy ran after. "Her master?" the girl whispered to the empty ruins. "Why do you keep coming back?" Her voice broke, but a part of her already knew the answer. That night, when the ruins grew cold again, the silence was no longer as heavy as before. Somewhere, inside her, a wall had cracked. A tiny crack, but one that let the light in. The days passed like drifting clouds. Each evening the ruins echoed with a soft bark, and each morning the girl found food where Noah had left it. Sometimes bread, sometimes fruit, sometimes a small flask of water. He never forced her to come out. He never tried to grab her. He only came, left what he carried, and spoke a few gentle words, and always, Penny came running to her. The little creature leapt through puddles, wagged her tail, and curled beside the girl as if she belonged there. The girl tried to resist at first. She told herself not to care, not to feel, but the warmth of the pup against her bare feet grew harder to ignore. One evening the rain had stopped. The sky burned orange as the sun set behind the broken towers. The girl sat in her corner, hugging her knees. Penny trotted toward her, tongue out, carrying nothing this time. She dropped onto the ground beside the girl and let out a tired sigh. The girl's glowing eyes softened. Her blanket slipped from her shoulders as she leaned closer. She studied the creature's soft fur, the small rise and fall of her breathing. Her hand twitched, trembling in the air. She had not touched another living thing in so long. Her body screamed to pull back, to hide again. But her heart whispered something else. Her fingers hovered just above the pup's back. The air felt heavy. Every breath was loud in her ears. Slowly, her fingertips brushed against the fur. Warm, soft, alive. Penny stirred, lifted her head, and licked the girl's hand with a happy little bark. The girl gasped. Her chest tightened, her glowing eyes filled with water. She pulled her hand back quickly, staring at her wet fingers as if she had been burned. Yet the burn was not pain. It was something else, something forgotten. She pressed her hand to her chest, shaking. Penny barked again, a playful sound. She nudged her head under the girl's hand, begging for more. The girl resisted for only a heartbeat before her hand lowered once more. This time she did not pull away. Her fingers sank into the warm fur. The pup wagged her tail so hard her whole body shook. The girl's throat tightened. A sound escaped her lips, half a sob, half a laugh. It startled her. She had not made that sound in years. She quickly covered her mouth, her eyes wide, but Penny only barked again as if proud she had broken through. Another wall. That was the moment Noah appeared. He had come quietly, as he always did, carrying a small bundle of food. He stopped when he saw her hand resting on Penny's back. For the first time, the girl did not run. Noah lowered himself slowly, sitting on the ground a few steps away. He placed the food down carefully, then rested his arms on his knees. His eyes met hers, gentle, steady. He did not speak right away. He only watched the way Penny leaned against her, tail wagging. "You touched her," he said softly. His voice carried no judgment, only warmth. The girl's cheeks heated. She looked away quickly, pulling her hand back, but Penny barked and nudged her hand again until she gave in and stroked her fur once more. Noah smiled, not a mocking smile, but one filled with quiet relief. "It's okay," he whispered. "She likes it. She likes you." The girl's throat burned. Words rose inside her, sharp and scared. "Why?" she asked. Why do you keep coming back? Why do you leave food? Why don't you hate me like the others? Noah's eyes softened. His voice stayed calm. Because you don't deserve to be alone. The word struck her like lightning. Her glowing eyes filled with tears again. She wanted to scream at him, to tell him he was lying, but her heart beat louder than her fear. She hugged Penny close. Hiding her face in the pup's fur, Noah did not move closer. He only said, "You don't have to believe me now, just let us stay." The girl sobbed silently into the pup's fur. The warmth against her chest felt like fire after years of cold. For the first time since her parents were gone, she did not feel like a shadow. She felt alive as the sun faded behind the ruins. The girl sat with Penny pressed against her and Noah sitting quietly nearby. The silence was no longer heavy. It was gentle. The walls she had built around her heart had cracked wider, and through the cracks light was starting to pour in. The girl's life began to change slowly, not in sudden storms, but in small drops like rain carving stone. Each evening Noah came, sometimes with food, sometimes with water, always with Penny running happily at his side. He never demanded her trust, never forced her to speak. He only stayed nearby, speaking in a calm voice, letting her decide how close to be. At first she sat in silence, clutching her blanket as if it were her last shield. But with each visit, her silence grew shorter. She whispered a word, then another, until one evening she found herself telling him her name. Her voice cracked as she said it, as if she had forgotten how it sounded. Noah only nodded, repeating it softly, holding it with care. The ruins did not feel the same anymore. They were still broken, still cold, but now they carried echoes of laughter. Penny would chase broken stones that Noah tossed, barking and sliding across the mud. Sometimes, the girl let out small laughs when the pup tripped over her own paws. Every time Noah heard that sound, he looked at her with quiet joy. One night, when the air was heavy with fog, she spoke more than she ever had before. Her glowing eyes lowered to the ground, her fingers pulling at her blanket. She told him in pieces like shards of glass about the night her parents had not come back. About the whispers in the market, about the stones that followed her, about the endless days of hiding. Her voice trembled, breaking again and again, but Noah never interrupted. He listened, his hands resting on his knees, his eyes never filled, with pity but with steady strength. When her words finally died into silence, Noah spoke softly. "I'm sorry they hurt you. I'm sorry you were alone. You didn't deserve that." Her chest tightened. She wanted to argue, to tell him he was wrong, that maybe she did deserve it. But the way he said it made her believe, if only for a moment, that she was worth more than the shadows she lived in. The days that followed felt lighter. She began to meet them not only in the corner of her ruins, but on the street outside. She walked slowly beside Penny, watching her wagging tail. Sometimes her fingers brushed Noah's sleeve when Penny pulled between them. Each time her heart skipped, fear flashing. But Noah never reacted harshly. He only smiled gently and stepped back, giving her space. She started to notice things she had ignored before. The way Noah always carried 2 pieces of bread, not just one. The way he made sure the water flask was full. The way Penny would bark at shadows, as if protecting her from the ghosts of her past. These small things pressed against her walls like steady hands, breaking them piece by piece. One evening, Noah brought something different. Not food, but a small lantern. He placed it on the broken wall near her corner. The flame flickered, chasing away the darkness. The girl stared at it, her glowing eyes reflecting the light. "Why?" she whispered again, though softer than before. "So you don't have to sit in the dark," Noah answered, his voice steady. "Everyone deserves a little light." Her throat ached. She wanted to cry, but the tears would not fall. Instead, she nodded slightly. Her fingers reached out and rested near the lantern, feeling its faint heat. She had forgotten what light felt like when it was not harsh, not burning, but gentle. That night, she slept with Penny curled at her side and the lantern glowing nearby. For the first time in years, her sleep was not filled with nightmares, but with quiet dreams. Dreams of voices that were kind, of hands that did not throw stones, of warmth that did not vanish. When she woke at dawn, Noah was gone, but the lantern remained, still glowing faintly. Her blanket was warmer, her chest was calmer. Something inside her had shifted. The walls were no longer whole. They were breaking, and through them she could feel the world again. She whispered to herself, clutching Penny close. Maybe. I don't have to be afraid forever. The words were small, fragile, but they were hers, and for the first time, she believed them. The days turned into weeks, and the ruins no longer felt like a prison. The girl still lived among broken stones, but now she waited for footsteps in the bark that always followed. Penny came first, wagging her tail, and then Noah arrived with food, with words, with quiet warmth. The shadows of her past were still there, but they no longer owned her. One evening, the sky burned red with sunset. Noah sat on a stone while Penny chased her tail nearby. The girl sat across from him, no longer hiding behind her blanket. Her glowing eyes were softer now, less sharp. They held something new, uncertainty mixed with hope. Noah looked at her, carefully as if weighing his words, then he said, "You don't have to stay here forever. You don't have to sleep in the cold or hide in the dark. You could come with me." The girl froze. Her breath caught. The thought of leaving her ruins twisted her chest. This place was broken, but it was safe. It was all she knew. "I can't," she whispered, shaking her head. "People, they hate me." Noah leaned forward slightly, his voice steady. "Not everyone, not me." Penny barked as if agreeing, running over and nudging the girl's knee with her wet nose. The girl pressed her trembling hand against the pup's head. Her eyes watered. She wanted to believe him, but fear clung to her like chains. "What if they hurt me again?" she asked. Her voice cracked. Noah shook his head. "Then I'll stand with you. You won't face them alone." The words struck her heart. She lowered her gaze, hiding her tears behind her hair. All her life she had been told she was cursed, unwanted. But here was someone who refused to let her believe it. She hugged Penny close, her body shaking. That night, she could not sleep. She lay awake, staring at the lantern Noah had given her. Its soft glow lit the ruins gently. She whispered to herself again and again, "Not alone, not alone." The words were strange, but they wrapped around her heart like a blanket warmer than any cloth. When dawn came, she stood at the edge of the ruins, her blanket around her shoulders. Penny wagged her tail beside her. Noah waited quietly, his hand stretched out, not forcing, not pulling, just waiting. The girl's legs trembled. Every part of her wanted to turn back, to run into the shadows. But her heart told her to take the step. Slowly, she reached out her hand. Her thin fingers touched his. His grip was gentle, steady. He smiled, and together they walked down the broken street, Penny bouncing happily between them. The ruins faded behind her with each step. The days that followed were not easy. People stared. Some whispered. Some pointed. The girl clutched her blanket tighter, ready for stones, ready for cruel words. But none came, because Noah stood beside her, and Penny barked at anyone who dared step too close. At Noah's small home, she found things she had forgotten. Warm food, a roof without holes, a fire that gave heat without smoke. At first she could not sleep on the bed he offered. She curled in the corner instead, but Noah never pushed. He only left the lantern by her side, and slowly she learned to rest without fear. One evening, she sat on the floor with Penny's head resting on her lap. Noah placed a cup of warm broth. In her hands, the glow of the fire lit their faces. She looked at them, boy, pup, and her, and something deep inside her shifted. Her chest filled with warmth she did not have words for. Her glowing eyes shimmered. Tears slipped down her cheeks. For years she had believed she was cursed to walk alone. But now she understood. Family was not always blood. Family was those who stayed, those who gave light, those who refused to let her break. She whispered softly, more to herself than to them, "I'm not alone anymore." Noah heard her, but he did not say anything. He only smiled and placed another log on the fire. Penny barked happily in her lap. and the girl leaned back, letting the warmth of her new family surround her. The walls she had built for years had finally crumbled, and in their place she found something stronger, something brighter, a new beginning, a new family,